My first car and my first apartment. Hello, y'all. I'm Dianna Brianne. I don't give advice, suggestions, information, recommendations. I do share with you my perspective on different topics. I hope you like, share, subscribe. All 5 channel names are pinned to the top of the comment section or description box below. Well. I've told these stories before, but I have so many new people, new friends on my channel that probably many of them have not heard these stories, or most have not heard these stories. But my first car I got when I was 15 years old. Back then you could get your driver's license a little bit early, and we lived in the country. And so my mom decided I needed a car. Well, she found an ad in the paper for a 1965 red Chevy that was sitting by itself out in an overgrown farm field for $75. $75. Well, even back then, you can only imagine what that car looked like and what it ran like. And so my mother and I went over, and I said, "No, Mom, no, I really don't want this car." She said, "Oh, yes. My stepfather would redo the car. He would go over it and fix it and make it, run like new, I guess." And so she went and bought the car, but I did not want to drive it home. So we had like a little Pinto station wagon that I drove. I think it was like 1972 or something, Pinto station wagon, and I was driving it. It was a yellow one. And I drove it home with my mother behind me in this big red Chevy. And it was just roaring and shaking and shimming and smoking, and it was so loud. And I was like, "Oh, I don't want this car. I don't want this car. It's going to be too embarrassing." You know how it is when you're like 15, 16 years old. It's all about not being embarrassed. So my mother drove it home, to the disappointment of my stepfather. He really didn't want to spend months refurbishing this car, in which he did. And so he fixed this 1965 red Chevy, kind of like out of the video with Tom Cochran, Life is a Highway. Same same look to that car is what I had. And so lo and behold, my stepfather refurbished it and put it out on the road, and I would drive it back and forth to school rather than take the bus. But at that point, I preferred to take the bus than to drive the big red car. Nonetheless, I got used to it, and it got me to and from. And that was my big red car, my first car, 1965 Chevy Impala, red. And so I graduated right around when I was 17, and I decided to move away to the big city. Well, the big city was actually just a small town that was just a little bit bigger than the small town that we were from. And so I got in my big red Chevy Impala, and I had a pair of jeans on, sandals on, my polyester blouse, and my bra that I had talked about, my first bra that I had given, it had been given to me, first nice bra, I should say, because it wasn't my first bra, it was my first nice bra. And away I went. And I started driving, and I packed my car and told my mom I was, going to where we had family friends. And my mom really didn't want me to go, but she let me go. And she knew I'd be well taken care of with our family friends. What she didn't know is that I was going to get a job when I was there. And so when I got there, I rode around, and I went into a couple different places, and one of the places had just opened up. And I became a prep girl, dicing up potatoes and making salads and that in the back in the kitchen. Well, at the very same time, I got a job as a hostess, the lead hostess at a pizzeria. And so I was the lead hostess, and I wore my platform shoes, my short skirt, and my polyester blouse. And I was the hostess at the pizzeria, as well as working the back kitchen at the restaurant, at another restaurant. And so I needed an apartment because I had to drive from our family friend's house into the bigger town now, where I would work. And so she recommended this women's boarding house, which was an old mansion that had been converted into efficiency apartments. They were more like one-room apartments, and you shared a community bathroom with like 2 other women. And so I moved in there. It was a big, old, haunted-looking type of house that sat perched upon a hill. And I would have to walk down that hill and take the bus because at that point I sent my big red car back home because it was having some issues with turning it on and turning it off. And so I would ride the local bus transit to the pizzeria, or someone would give me a ride. Well, this apartment was $9 a week. Yes, $9 a week. And it had a bed that sank down in the middle with the springs coming up. It had a little gas heater in there, a little gas stove, and I used a plastic pickle barrel as my sink. I would carry it down to the main bathroom, and I'd fill it with water, and I would wash my dishes in it. And there were two old ladies that I shared the bathroom with, and they each had an apartment next to mine on the first floor. Now, I was a deluxe apartment, okay? It was $9 a week. The less deluxe apartments were on the second and third floor. If you're on the second floor, you paid $8 a week. If you're on the third floor, you paid $7. And so there were old women and women of questionable values. I was neither that lived there. And so I continued to live there for a couple months, and I continued on my jobs, and I was getting a lot of opportunity to date, but I was really young, and I hadn't yet turned 18. I was still 17, but I kind of told them I was 18 so I could get the jobs. And I still think I could have got the jobs, but, you know, it was a pizzeria that served beer, I think, at the time. And even though I didn't serve the beer, you know, I think you had to be a certain age or something. But I'm not sure. Maybe not. Probably not. And anyhow, I was getting a lot of opportunity for dating. And when I was at work, and I told this story, it's called The Angel in the Trench Coat. There was a man that would come, stand under the lamppost, and then come ring the doorbell. And the old ladies, or the ladies of questionable value, would answer the door. And he'd say, "Is Diane there?" I never saw this man, ever, but the old ladies did, and the women of questionable value. He never would come on the nights I was off, but he would come on the nights I was working. So somehow I always say he was an angel that was giving me a warning through these old ladies and through the women of questionable values. And that it was time for me to move on because I was young, and I was kind of drawing a lot of attention in that town. And also the women of questionable values had men coming over, and they weren't supposed to, at night, and they would come in, you know, to their little apartments, and on the way they would eye my apartment. And so, you know, and I was very young. I was, you know, probably by then I had turned 18. I think I did turn 18 at that point. And so, you know, it was just, you know, getting a little bit uncomfortable there. And so I told my mom about this man in the trench coat. And so she was really concerned. So she came down in her big brand new Pontiac Le Mans, and she loaded up the car with all my stuff, and she said, "You're coming back and you're going to college." And that was the end of my apartment. And with my first car, we ended up selling it, and after that, I think the person drove and drove and drove it, and it kind of just fell apart because for $75, what can you really get that's going to last forever? So anyhow, that's my story about my first car and my first apartment. From my house to yours, may God bless you. I hope you like, share, subscribe, and I hope you keep your sense of humor. And I hope to talk to you soon again. Bye-bye.